So my name is Ben Zifkin. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Hubba. And Hubba, as we mentioned, is a B2B network that connects brands and retailers, helps make sure they get all the proper rich product information that they need. I'm going to talk about a few things, but primarily I'm not going to talk about the brand and retail world. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I learned along the way after creating a company back in 2004 and then selling it and then moving overseas and starting a new company and now at Hubba. And I think the main thing that I want to talk about is the fact that as a founder, your job really is to create this gravitational pull. So you start off as this little speck in the abyss, and your job is to create this field around you where employees want to come work for you, clients want to come, join your app or get on your system. You have investors who want to invest in you. You got press, people that want to actually write about you. It takes a lot of energy. And I think one of the fundamental problems that we have when we deal with companies that aren't successful is that they just lose that energy. And I started really thinking about some of the things of why people lose energy. And what I learned is it's the disappointments in life. It's the things that you expect in a certain spot and then realize it's very different. And as we all know, our world is not about being Mark Zuckerberg and the social network and everything that we see on movies and TV. So what I want to talk about is something that we do. I think we do a disservice to ourselves a little bit by glorifying a little bit about what we do. And I want to talk about some of the things that I found that are the most damaging to what we do. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the lies that we're told and the lies that we tell ourselves as well. Lie number one, the biggest overarching lie. Being a founder is awesome. You know what? Being a founder generally isn't awesome. And when I say generally, I mean all the time. It's pretty much not awesome. There's not a lot of good things about it. It's great that you brought something new into this world that wasn't there the other day. Amazing. But it is revs of anxiety. It is stress, as we all know. And I don't expect anybody to have a pity party for me. I knew exactly what I was getting into. But I think a lot of people don't realize that you lose a lot of friends. And you sit at these family dinners and it's the holidays and everybody's talking and all you hear is this like static in the background because you're thinking about your business. Or last night, I have a 10-month-old daughter, and she woke up at 3:30, and I'm sitting with her, I'm lying on the bed, and I'm stroking her back, and I realize I'm actually drawing out numbers on her back because I'm doing a cap table for our upcoming funding round. And I realize, your world, you just never turn off, and there's no peace. And it's okay, but you just have to understand that that's really the reality of what's out there, and when you don't understand that, then you start to lose a lot of that energy. This is a big one. You get to be your own boss. You don't. In fact, you're accountable to absolutely everybody. I'm accountable to all of my employees. I'm accountable to the 3,000 companies that are on our system. I'm accountable to our dozens of investors. There is no way that you get to be your own boss. You are the most important. Not even close. You may think you are, but you aren't. And if you think you are, you shouldn't be. So my last company, I spent a lot of time really trying to show everybody how important I was. I used to get involved in every meeting. I used to get as many direct reports as I possibly could. We had 100 people reporting directly or indirectly to me. I used to brag about my 400 emails I would get a day and that nothing could happen in the business if I didn't actually approve it. And now it's the exact opposite. I've learned in my old age now that you're most important when you're least important. And I sat there and realized that I'm focused now on having no more than 3 direct reports no matter how big we get as a company. I love the fact that I focus on getting 50 emails or less a day. I'm trying to even drop that down. And my company runs way better without me than it does with me, which I think is the thing that I'm most proud of because the thing just is a well-oiled machine. And that's the way to get to, is you're most important when you're least important in a business. Do what you love. I think one of the biggest misnomers around. You may love kittens and you may love cosmetics, but to have a company that does pet makeup is a terrible, terrible idea. Businesses are about markets, and you're going to blind yourself trying to do a lot of things. Now, if you're in a cubicle and you have to spend 9 to 5, sure, be in an area that you may or may not like. But when you're building a business, it's about the market. And this is going to be bad when you guys tweet the little clips on Twitter, but brands and retailers, cool. That's the world that I live in, and that's great. But what really excites me isn't fixing that. It's for brands and retailers. It's the fact that I get to build a monster company. It's the fact that there's massive data issues that I get to go fix every day. Those challenges are amazing. If you focus on those, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. I got caught on this one recently in a podcast. I remember saying, hey, if you're going to swing for the fences, just go for it, because doing something small is just as hard as doing something big. False. Doing something big is really, really hard. There is a basic complexity to getting any company started, as we all know, but taking a big swing is difficult. And if you don't realize that, you're going to be in for a big, big surprise. And this is another thing that kind of came up here, is it's all about business. It's not. Everything is personal. Everything. And I think that we usually separate that. And that's not the case. You have to understand people. And if you don't, you are dead in the water from day one. Everything is about people. All your business is about people. Finding the right people to bring into your company is important. Making sure that you manage them as properly is important. Making sure that when you sit across the table from somebody doing a negotiation, you can put yourself in their shoes. The amount of things that you get that come from outside of the walls of your company, about people finding out. I've had people saying, I just found out I was pregnant, I don't know how to tell my husband. Or I just got diagnosed with a terminal disease. That has happened actually on multiple occasions. And these are things outside the business that actually impact inside the business more than anything within those four walls. And this one's probably the most controversial one. I've got probably 20 more of these, but I'll leave it on this one. And again, this is going to be terrible, like sound bites on Twitter right now. It's going to sound callous, but you have to put your customer first. It's true. But the biggest problem I think that we have is that we don't really understand who our customers are. And I'm going to say something really callous here, which is my customers are investors, right? The users are great, but my customers are my investors. And it sounds bad, but as you start a business, and it depends on the type of business that you have, but if you have a business that's a fundable, high-growth business that requires investment, all you do from day one is sell your company. You're selling small pieces to angel investors, you're selling larger pieces to other investors, you're selling mass amounts to the public when you IPO, you're selling to an acquirer, you're always selling a business, which means that the value that you're trying to create is really in a different area. My value is in my customers, my users, not my customers, my users. So my users are my product. And again, another bad soundbite, but you can imagine how lucky I am. I'm a product guy, and I get all these people with all these wonderful stories, and I treat them so well because the value of my company is based off of them. So you just have to treat your customers and make sure your customers come first, but you just have to know who your customers are. Okay? Any questions? So clear, perfect, yeah.
What's the unintended consequence of this venture so far?
Unintended consequence. So I always come back to people no matter what. And understanding for me how to run a business before when I was 27 years old, and I'd love to say I had 120 people that were all older and smarter than me, and I had an office the size of this room, and all that was great. What I've learned is the most important thing for me is I'd love to say, hey, we're 15 people and we do $5 billion a year in revenue. So my ego's changed a lot. That wasn't exactly what I expected. And the other thing is everything is 10 times harder and takes 100 times longer than you think. And I've done stuff before. I kind of get it. I kind of know what I'm doing, but you don't really know what you're doing. And understanding that and realizing it's not going to be easy for anybody is a big deal. And I think we glamorize this entire life, which is great, and I'm glad that people want to be in it. But it's understanding how hard it is a big piece of it. Sure.
If you get to go back in time and tell your 20-year-old self something that would impact you more, what would you say?
It's actually a really easy one. It's for me, it's selling. Know how to sell better. It's not an insightful one. It's not like this amazing philosophical one, even though I was a philosophy major. It's actually learning to sell. And I think the reason why I'm saying that is because it was my deficiency. I like product, and I like building stuff and getting stuff done. I like problem solving, but understanding how to sell something and selling people, right? On your vision, selling people on what you're trying to do, selling customers. All you're doing is selling all the time. And it's not in an insincere way. The authentic selling piece of it, because you believe in it, is probably the one thing I'd really learn how to do a lot better. Sure.
What's your best selling advice for product guy?
Surround yourself with really, really good people who really, really know how to sell. You could do what you want, but there's an art and a science to selling. I could learn the science, but people have an art to it for the most part. So strategically, I can sit in a room. I love being the guy. Give me a marker and a whiteboard at like a final exec meeting. I can go kill it. But there's a real process and a real understanding on the cadence and how to properly sell that you really have to learn things like that from people who are very good at it. Unfortunately, there's no great schools that teach stuff like that. It really is. And our world is changing. Different models change all the time. Like, I've got a whole thing on like product market fit. Like, I think it's garbage. I think it's really about model market fit, getting the right sales model associated to it. So, yeah, that's probably my biggest thing is find a lot of people who know better than you, and that's exactly what we did.
So you mentioned you're a serial entrepreneur, and I'm sure you've had ideas or companies that have failed. At what point do you decide it's time to call it quits? When
Yeah.
your idea is just not moving,
Yeah.
or you're not making enough.
Yeah, so I got very lucky in my first company that I had lots of great people around me, and like I was a co-founder. I had a great co-founder as well that helped us build the business, and we were profitable from day one. Didn't really actually realize how hard it was, so I started out going and doing other things. I'm very big on the fact, like the piece of the whole fail fast world. Again, you talk about things that are really damaging to us. I don't think you should fail. Like, you shouldn't be doing it. My issue with the whole fail fast and the whole pivot thing is you can say whatever you want, but whether you like persevered or you should and like you stuck through it when people didn't told you that it wasn't going to work, or whether you pivoted and you were like it only written after the fact. So nobody ever knows, and you're going to get tons of advice and tons of guidance, and like there's lots of great people in here that start companies actually I've spoken to, which are great. But I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm very clear with them. Like, here's my experience, but you guys are the entrepreneurs. Even if you had somebody in the exact same space and was successful, they would have done it before, in a different time, with different trends, with different technologies. So the advice is don't listen to anybody. Nobody really knows, and failing sucks, so don't fail. Yeah.